Okay, thank you for your patience. Okay, let's continue our discussion of abortion today. Okay, so I believe that next week we are going to move on to a totally different topic. We're going to move on to talking about marks. But for right now, for this week, for today, we are going to continue talking about abortion. Okay, so on Tuesday, we spent Tuesday looking at this paper by Judith Jarvis Thompson. Why abortion? I mean, no, actually, the paper was called "A Defense of Abortion." So today, we are going to look at another paper from. We are going to look at another paper from another writer. His name is Don Marquis. So Don Marquis basically, he basically argues for the opposite position, which is he argues that abortion is prima facie immoral. Okay, what is prima facie? So prima facie, it comes from it's a Latin word which literally means first phase. So basically, what Marquis is trying to argue is that abortion is immoral, maybe except in extreme circumstances, and this is important. So he's not trying to come up with extreme circumstances to try to argue why it might be okay or not okay to commit an abortion. So he's not going to really talk about things like rape or such unusual cases. What he's trying to do is to sort of give us a sort of general account or general explanation of why abortion is immoral. Okay, well, okay, first things first. Don Marquis is a very interesting philosopher because uh, most philosophers who are living and who are active today have published are known for publishing a bunch of papers and a body of work. But Don Marquis, he's like the philosophy version of a one-hit wonder. Most people, if you ever go to philosophy conferences or talk to other philosophers, and you mention the name, not you, you mention the name Don Marquis, the first thing, and probably the only thing that will come up is this paper, "Why Abortion is Immoral." He probably has done other things. He probably has written other papers, but nobody really knows what they are. Or yeah, yeah. So he's like the point of philosophical interest. He's like the philosophy version of a one-hit wonder. But I think it's just, and I think that's kind of justifiably so because this is actually, it really is a good paper. Um, okay, so maybe it's good to kind of it's good to kind of go into a little bit of detail into how Marquis arrives at his conclusion. Uh, okay, I'm not very good at taking notes. I mean, I'm not very good at writing notes on Moodle, but I will try. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to pull out a Word document so that I can type some things on it. Okay, so if you can bear with me, okay, hopefully you can see this blank piece of blank Word document here. Uh, okay, sorry. So we are looking at this particular paper by Don Marquis, titled "Why Abortion is Immoral." Okay, as I said, he's basically trying to argue that abortion is immoral. But there are a couple of steps that he takes to get to this conclusion. So I want to kind of trace those steps. So the first thing he argues is that the first thing he observes is that there's a kind of standoff. There's a kind of standoff. There's a kind of standoff between people who are against abortion, anti-abortionists, and people who are not against abortion, pro-choicers. So there's a kind of standoff between anti-abortionists and pro-choicers. So what is the standoff? The standoff is this: if you are if you are against abortion, right? Most people who are against abortion would say something like, abortion is wrong, because abortion kills a human life or terminates a human life, and it is always wrong to kill a human, to terminate human life. Okay, now the reason why this particular position is not always convincing is because, lots of things count as human life. You don't have to be a fully grown human you don't have to be a fully grown human to have human life. You could argue that any one of your organs is living and also belongs to a human being. So any one of your organs is also a human life. Some of your, a bunch, all of your cells are also human cells, and they're also living, and so they are also, human life. So if you take this position, then you end up embracing too much, right? I mean, you would say that if you say that it's always wrong to terminate anything that is human and living, then you might have to say that it is wrong to, to terminate a bunch of human cancer cells. And we know we don't want to accept that because, if you are going for chemotherapy, for example, you do want to kill those human cancer cells, right? Okay, so for this reason, the anti-abortionist position is not always very convincing. And then the other position, which is the pro-choice position, the pro-choice position has its problems as well. So if you are a pro-choicer, you might say something like abortion is morally acceptable because fetuses are not persons, right? And it is only wrong to kill persons. So therefore abortion is not wrong because it does not kill persons. Okay. So that's that is the position that most pro-choicers take. You might remember that Judith Jarvis Thompson is an exception. She doesn't really take this position, but most other pro-choicers take this position. They believe that abortion can be morally acceptable because fetuses are not persons. They are whatever they are. They are not persons. I mean, you and I are persons, and many children are also persons, but fetuses are not persons. So therefore, it's okay to end a human to end a pregnancy because abortion does not kill persons. The problem with this position is that very young children and babies are also not persons, right? I mean, they are not fully grown. They don't have any very much mental capacities yet. But we don't say that it is okay to kill babies or to kill very young children. So this position, this pro-choice position, is not very convincing because if you say that it is only wrong to kill persons, then you might have to say that sometimes it's okay to kill babies or to kill very young children, and you don't want to say that. So okay, so there is a kind of standoff between anti-abortionists and pro-choicers because neither of them seem to offer some really good argument for why it is wrong or not wrong to commit abortion, to do an abortion. Uh, Along comes Don Marquis. Don Marquis says, "Look, there is a one how to resolve." So Don Marquis has this question: How do we resolve this standoff? How do we resolve this standoff? And the standoff and his solution is this. Instead of thinking about abortion first, we should think about a more basic question, which is why. The question we should think about is why. Why is it wrong? Why is it wrong to kill people? Why is it wrong to kill people like us, like people like you and me? Why is it wrong to kill people like you and me? Well, there are many reasons, but this is his suggestion. So let me refer you to let's look at Marquis' paper together. How do I put this up? Okay, hopefully you can see this. This is Don Marquis' paper, Why Abortion is Immoral, and I'm looking at page 189. Okay, so I'm going to just read from this and then we can talk about it. In order to develop such an account, we can start from the following unproblematic assumption concerning our own case. It is wrong to kill us. Why is it wrong? Some answers can be easily eliminated. It might be said that what makes killing us wrong is that a killing brutalizes the one who kills. But the brutalization consists of being inured to the performance of an act that is hideously immoral. Hence, the brutalization does not explain the immorality. It might be said that what makes killing us wrong is the great loss others would experience due to our absence. Although such hubris is understandable, such an explanation account for the wrongness of killing hermits or those whose lives are relatively independent and whose friends find it easy to make new friends. So if I'm a kind of a if I'm a loner or a hermit, then then it wouldn't really it really wouldn't make it wrong to kill me, right? Because if you say that killing people is wrong because other people around them will miss them, or feel sad, well, if I'm a hermit, then then it seems that it wouldn't be wrong to kill me because if I die, nobody will miss me very much. Okay, and then but then he goes on to say, a more obvious answer is better. What primarily makes killing wrong is neither its effect on the murderer nor its effect on the victim's friends and relatives, but its effect on the victim. The loss of one's life is one of the greatest losses one can suffer. The loss of one's life deprives one of all of the experiences, activities, projects, and enjoyments that would otherwise have constituted one's future. Therefore, killing someone is wrong, primarily because the killing inflicts one of the greatest possible losses on the victim. To describe this as the loss of life can be misleading. However, the change in my biological state does not by itself make killing me wrong. The effect of the loss of my biological life is the wrong to me of all of those activities, projects, experiences, and enjoyments which would otherwise have constituted my future personal life. These activities, projects, experiences, and enjoyments are either valuable for their own sakes or as means to something else that is valuable for its own sake. Some parts, some parts of my future are not valued by me right now, but will come to be valued by me as I grow older and as my experiences and capacities change. When I am killed, I am deprived both of what I now value, which would have been part of my future personal life, but also what I would come to value. Therefore, when I die, I'm deprived of all of the value of my future. Inflicting this loss on me is ultimately what makes killing me wrong. This being the case, it would seem that what makes killing any adult human being seriously wrong is the loss of his or her future. Okay, so basically, what Marquis is saying is that let me go back to my Word document. Okay, so what Marquis is saying is that you know the answer to this question, why is it wrong to kill people like us, is that it is wrong to mm, it is wrong to kill us because because killing us deprives I can't type killing us deprives sorry, not enough coffee. Killing us deprives us of our futures. Okay. It is wrong to kill us because killing us deprives us of our futures. And I think maybe you can see where he's trying to go with this. So he's saying that what we have in common, what fetuses have in common with us, and what we have in common with fetuses is that we both have futures. So the idea is that if it is wrong, if we have futures, right? If we have futures, then it is wrong to kill us. If fetuses have futures, then it is wrong to kill or abort fetuses. Okay, so if we have fetuses, then it is wrong to kill us. So if fetuses, if fetuses also have futures, then it is wrong to kill and abort fetuses. And then I think you can see where the conclusion is pretty clear from here. Therefore, it is wrong to therefore abortion is wrong. Okay, very simple. So basically, what he's trying to say is, instead of trying to show that abortion is wrong because fetuses are persons or not persons, or trying to show that fetuses are human or not human, it is better to just to go with this very straightforward idea that what fetuses have in common with us is that we all have futures. So if we all have futures and it is wrong to kill us, then if fetuses have futures, then it should also be wrong to, kill or abort fetuses. Therefore, abortion is wrong. Okay, pretty straightforward. Uh, okay, I think I've said enough. By the way, so here's something. Here's a side note. I don't require, I don't require people to, turn on their videos when they're on Zoom. But it still would be nice to see your face anyway. I mean, if you're having a very bad hair day, hi Matthew. If you're having a very bad hair day, or if you're in your PJs, I understand. But if you're not, think about showing your face. Okay. So anyway, here is the argument by by Thompson. Sorry, not Thompson. By Marquis. He basically says that look, it's very simple to show you. It's very simple to explain why abortion is wrong, and it's wrong because it deprives fetuses of futures. Um, yes, it deprives fetuses of futures. Therefore, abortion is wrong. Okay, very simple. Okay, before we go on, any thoughts about this?
I like it because it kind of explains why people will react more to like someone killing a child than more them killing an adult. On the other hand, it's like there's some things that I'm like not sure if it's taken to extreme cases that it may break down a little bit, but a lot of things do. So I think it's good. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. So you think that this argument might not work so well with extreme cases?
Yeah, like it would like saying, oh, it's less wrong to kill an elderly person than a young person because they are have less life to live. And I'm not sure if that's true or not, but it feels wrong. Like that isn't true. But I guess if you do really buy into this idea of why killing is wrong, I guess it isn't.
how how bright is your future if you're born to like a 13-year-old mother, or you're born into extreme poverty, or your mom didn't want to be pregnant so she didn't stop drinking and now you've got fetal alcohol syndrome? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Or if you are born with something like there's this thing called Tay-Sachs disease, which is this thing where is this congenital thing where there is some kind of you are you are where the fetus is lacking some kind of, I think it's lacking some kind of enzyme in the brain or something. And so what happens is that for the first 6 months, for the first 6 months, the fetus, I mean, for the first 6 months after it's born, the baby will develop normally, just like any other baby. But then from around the time of 6 months on, some things will start to happen. Like the baby will start to experience certain slow development in motor functions. It might also start to lose its eyesight, and then also be unable to swallow, and then and then eventually there will be so much muscular atrophy and all those things that you will die. And usually babies who get Tay-Sachs, they usually die by the time they are 4. um, yeah, so that's another interesting case. I mean, if you have, I mean, if a baby has Tay-Sachs disease, is it I mean, does it really have a future of value like everybody, like other, like normal babies? And yeah, I mean, the thing is that Marquis doesn't try to, he said right at the beginning of the paper that he doesn't want to try to deal with these, extreme cases, which suggests that maybe, maybe in such extreme cases, he might be able to, he might be willing to kind of make exceptions. But what he wants to do here, I think, is to kind of give a general account of why abortion is wrong. So, but it's worth thinking about. Okay, here's something else that's worth thinking about. I mean, so the thing is that if you want to, these days, if you are in the business of philosophy, you are basically in the business of challenging people, challenging people's arguments. So if you want to challenge Marquis' argument, it is probably not a good idea to try to pick a fight over these kinds of extreme cases. It's probably better to kind of challenge his main point head on. But how? Uh,
I have kind of something maybe.
okay.
I was just thinking about it as you're saying. I just wasn't sure how to formulate it until kind of now. To kind of attack his, or I guess I was thinking of it while I was reading the paper, but I don't know. I think it's kind of not really stupid, but like it's just not a good thing to base a moral decision off of time or a future, because everything is going to have a future. Time is always going to be going on no matter what. So why base a moral decision off of something we can't control? Like a bug walking on the sidewalk is going to have a future because time is always going to be going on. We can't control that. So is it wrong for me to kill it because it can't have a future? Is it wrong for me to, I mean, this is, it's an inanimate object. Like if I were to say, destroy my car or something because it's not going to be no longer a car. But I mean, just that enhances, the absurdity of the statement, because everything is always going to have a future because time is always going to go on. So I just think that's not really a smart thing.
I think the bug example is better than the car example. For the simple reason that bugs have experiences whereas cars don't. So maybe, yeah, let's try this. So maybe the idea is that if it's always wrong, if it's always wrong to deprive, living beings, if it's wrong to kill living beings because it's wrong to deprive them of futures, then it seems that it'll be wrong to to kill bugs because bugs, bugs have futures too. Uh, and maybe some people might, Marquis might dismiss that. He might say, look, I mean, bugs, bugs don't have the same kind of rich internal life that we have. They are not, they don't have quite the same nervous system as we do, so they can't feel and experience the same, quite the same number of things as we do. So maybe it's not so wrong to kill bugs because their futures are more limited. But try something else. How about cows? Cows. I mean, cows. Okay, sure. Cows can't do philosophy. Cows can't play chess or watch movies. But cows can. Well, they can do lots of things, and they have eyes, and they have, they can taste and smell things like we do. So if it is wrong to kill anything because it has that has a future, if it is wrong to kill anything that has a future, is it wrong to kill? Then does it mean that it's wrong to kill cows? I mean, we do kill cows to eat them, right? Matthew.
I think this point was brought up in the essay the third essay that we were supposed to read about that, and I was thinking about, and it's kind of, it does break down if you take it to all living things, but if it's future sentience, if you have the idea of like, it's wrong to take a future that has choice in agency. I'm not sure if that's a perfect way of putting it, but only futures that have agency and choice and have the ability to be different into self-determinism matters. I'm not sure.
Yeah. The third paper is kind of interesting. So the third paper is the one by Walter Synod Armstrong, and no, so Synod. I mean, if I based on what I understand, Synod Armstrong actually attacks. He tries to attack Marquis in a in a more straightforward head-on fashion. Um, let's try to recall what he said. So he said that, look, what Marquis is basically saying is this. Marquis is basically saying it is wrong. It is wrong to cause something to lose his future, right? So this is basically Marquis' first point, and then abortion. Okay. Yeah, I understand that this might look like I'm not answering Brecken's point, but I'm kind of getting there. Okay, so abortion causes, well, something, causes a fetus to lose its future. Therefore, abortion is wrong. Okay, that is basically what Marquis is saying. But okay, compare this thing. Let me call this Marquis' argument. Okay, compares Marquis' argument with this other argument. I'm going to call this my own argument. Actually, I think Armstrong is the one who came up with it, so I should probably give him credit. So Armstrong comes out with a parallel argument to kind of illustrate something important. So suppose, again, right, it is wrong. It is wrong to cause something to lose its future. Suppose we start with the same first point, and then okay, let's change the example. So suppose Matthew and I are playing a game of chess, and I beat him. Or it doesn't really matter. Maybe he beats me. Okay, so suppose Matthew beats me at a game of chess. So Matthew causes me to to lose at chess. Does it follow? In other words, you can if I want to be very specific about it, I could say Matthew causes me to lose a future of chess victory. So if you are going with the same kind of argument, right? If it is wrong to cause something to lose its future, then it seems that it would follow that therefore it is wrong for Matthew to beat me at chess. Actually, let me change this a little bit to so we have more more of a parallel structure. So Matthew beats me at chess. So Matthew beats me at is wrong to cause something to lose its future. Matthew beats me at chess. So Matthew causes me to lose a future of chess victory. Therefore, it is wrong for Matthew to beat me at chess. Does that make sense, or does that sound weird somehow? I think most people, right? Most people would say, I mean, you and I would say, would say that there's nothing wrong with Matthew beating me at chess, right? Because if he beats me at chess, well, he's just a better chess player. But so what is the difference between the loss of, why is it not wrong for Matthew to beat me at chess, but why is it wrong for abortion to cause a fetus to lose its future?
Probably because, in this case, you have in the chess case, you still have a future of losing, but in the case of the abortion, there is no more future.
Okay. Oh, I see. So you're saying that in the case of Matthew beating me at chess, it's not wrong because he's not depriving me of a future. He's just depriving me of, what is he even depriving me of? He's depriving me of a certain kind of future, maybe.
Yeah, basically.
Interesting. Right. Whereas if you deprive a fetus of if you abort a fetus, you are depriving a fetus of any kind of future. It's interesting. Hmm. So based on everything I've said so far, uh, based on everything we have been looking at so far, it seems that Marquis' argument still stands. It's still a good argument for. It seems like a good argument against abortion, because he's basically saying that the kind of losing of a future that is involved in abortion is different because it causes the is the kind that causes you to lose any possibility of any kind of future at all. Whereas if Matthew beats me at chess, he only deprives me of one kind of future, i.e., the future in which I won that chess game. Interesting. Okay. So, but hold on a second. So does it mean that if you kill a cow to eat it, is it more like is killing a cow more like depriving? Is it closer to? Is it more? When you kill a cow, you deprive it of a future, right? So is killing a cow more like aborting a fetus, or is it more like Matthew beating me at chess?
Um, I think in the way we've kind of interpreted it, it would be closer to the abortion because it is an end of the future.
Yeah. So I think that sounds right. So killing a cow is more like aborting a fetus, because you are causing the cow to lose any kind of future, just like you are causing a fetus to lose any kind of future. Uh, so that means that based on everything we have said, killing a cow is just as wrong as killing a fetus because you are depriving it of futures. You are depriving both of futures. So we should all become vegetarian. Don't eat cows.
Um, Another way that you could say um, it causes another distinction is like it causes a loss of future choices,
Mm,
like because like a cow or a bug doesn't have very many choices and like agency. It does basically what its DNA has programmed it to do, but with more complex. But some animals, like dolphins and humans, and more or animals than things that have more complex um, brains and have more choices, then that might mean it more. That it that's just kind of what I was thinking. That because the choices are kind of what make your future your own future, not just a fixed set of events.
Okay. Are you, let me see if I understand you correctly. So are you saying that somehow the futures of human beings are more valuable than the futures of cows because of the content of our choices?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, just because like free will and rationality, as we've kind of already talked about, like the fact that we're rational beings and that we can make choices would make our own lives more, our own futures more valuable because we can become rational beings.
Right. Whereas cows can't, presumably cows can't become rational beings. Hmm. Hmm. So, so if this is what's going on, then I don't know. I mean, it's like then it seems that Marquis is not just he's not really just saying number one. He's not just saying that it is wrong to cost something to lose his future. Uh, he is more like he's saying something like it is. He's saying something like more. Some futures are more valuable than others. You know, human futures are more valuable than cow futures. Because well, you know, because humans have can look forward to doing all kinds of things that cows can't do. So it is more wrong to cause the loss of a human future than to cause the loss of a cow future. Um, Maybe that's okay. I don't know. You see, what I'm concerned about is that once you start making all these the distinctions between different kinds of futures, like human futures and cow futures, then then you can also start making distinctions between human futures, right? Uh, so if a human future has if a human can look forward to more future or better future than a cow because we can humans have more capacities, can experience more, then it's like whereas Carson was saying, maybe we can maybe some humans can also look forward to better futures than other humans. For example, you know, if you are born in a family that is pretty well to do, and you have a good and then they have the means to provide you with a good education, then you can look forward to more of a better future than if you were born to a 13-year-old, a 13-year-old teenager who doesn't have any money. So I guess what concerns me is that if it's okay to distinguish to differentiate between human futures, the quality of human future and cow future, then maybe it's also okay to differentiate between the quality of the future of some humans versus other humans. And then you will get to the point where you will say something like well, abortion is more okay when the fetus is abortion is more okay when the fetus is born is being born by a 13-year old young woman, because the fetus doesn't have much of a future to look forward to. uh,
I don't think those instances are unique. Nearly half of the abortions, nearly half of the women who get abortions today live below the poverty line. You know, so these aren't unique situations.
yeah, so they are not really that unusual. Hmm. Uh, yeah, and yeah, so maybe maybe what that means is so maybe that's I mean, if you're not a fan of Marquis' argument, maybe this is one way to kind of challenge Marquis' argument. You could say, look, uh, if you want to say that it is okay, there's a difference between human futures and cow futures. I'm assuming that Marquis is not a vegetarian. So if you're going to say that it's okay to to discriminate between human futures and cow futures, then you're going to say that it's okay to discriminate between some human futures and others. And then before you know it, you will get to a point where abortion is actually more and more okay, because most human futures, most cases which require which most cases in which abortion comes up are people who are living below the poverty line, in which people, people that don't are not don't in which the fetus can't really look forward to a great future. So maybe that is one way to to challenge Marquis, is by saying, look, your argument really at the end of the day, you are if you have to discriminate between all these different kinds of futures, then you're going to end up saying that abortion is only wrong. Abortion is only wrong when the fetus is born to a when the baby is being born to a good family with a lot of money and so on and so forth. Abortion is not wrong if the fetus is born to a poor person, for example. So it's okay for poor people to have abortions, but not rich people. So maybe that's one way to criticize. It's one way to challenge Marquis' argument, perhaps.
Maybe instead of like, because humans can make more choices, maybe it's um I agree with what you're saying about that. It's really hard and messy to make a distinction. I don't think I'm a qualified one, but maybe I just thought of this. Instead of having like more choices, maybe it's just the fact that um like Kant was talking about having a rational being. Like maybe it's just wrong to kill rational beings.
Oh, yeah. Uh, so a fetus is not yet a rational being, right? Not yet.
Yeah,
So
sorry. I see that.
I mean, it's not really a deal breaker, right? Because you could still say, look, it is still wrong to abort fetuses, because they are not yet rational beings, but they have great potential to grow up, to develop into rational beings. So they can look forward to a great future as rational beings. So you'll be so Marquis would say, look, abortion is wrong because if you abort, you are depriving a fetus of a future as a rational being. Okay. Let me just write this down first before I forget. So what we were talking about, what we were kind of going over just now is that if some futures are more valuable than others, then couldn't the futures of rich human beings, rich rich humans, be more valuable than poor than the futures of poor humans? Therefore, um, maybe it is not so wrong, or it is not wrong to abort. I'm just going to call them poor fetuses because I'm too lazy to type more. But by poor fetuses, I mean babies, fetuses that are going to be born into poor families. So maybe it's not wrong to abort poor fetuses. But if the majority of abortion cases are cases, oh gosh, cases of poor fetuses, then the majority of abortions are not wrong. So yes, that I think that could be a problem. Um, okay, here's another problem, and this is something that Armstrong brought up. Go back to the case of the chest thing. So Armstrong would say that the deprivation of my future of chess victory is not the same. It's not the same. Or actually, let me just use the word loss. The loss of my future of chess victory is not the same kind of loss as the loss of a fetus Actually, sorry, I'm just thinking aloud right now. The question is here, I should pose a question first. Is the loss of my future or chess victory the same kind of loss as the loss of a fetus future? Uh, um, so before I answer this question, let me just bring you a distinction. Let me just give you a distinction. So Armstrong, he makes a distinction between what he calls a neutral loss and a moral loss. Okay, so what's the difference between the two? Let's talk about moral loss first. So a moral loss is a loss in which is a loss of something to which you are entitled, right? So, for example, if you lose money, if you lose your money, if you lose your money because because I robbed you, then it is a moral loss because it's a moral loss because it's a moral loss because I have taken something, I've taken away something, I've taken away something to which you have a right, right? Because you own the money. If I It's a moral loss because I've taken something away from you, which you own, right? Which you have a right to. But a neutral loss is like you know, a neutral loss is like a loss of something to which you are not entitled. So, for example, the thing. Let's think about the chess game again. If I lose to you at chess, if I lose to you at chess, because you beat me, um, I can't say that. I can't say that you have. I can't say that you have robbed me of. So in the case of losing money, in the case of being robbed of money, I can say that you have taken away something which which is valuable to me, which I'm entitled to. I can say that you have done something wrong, right? If you rob me of the money, but if you beat me at chess, I can't say that you have done something wrong. Why? Because you haven't taken away from me. You haven't taken away from me anything to which I have a right to, right? I mean, I don't own the chess. I don't own the chess victory or anything like that. So if you snatch the victory from me, you're not taking away something to which I'm entitled. Whereas I own my money. So if you take my money away from me by robbing me, then you are taking away something to which I'm entitled. Okay, so now my question is, I'm sorry for this very long-winded thing. Now my question is, when you abort a fetus, when we abort a fetus, is it a moral loss or a neutral loss for the fetus? So when I abort a fetus, or when anybody aborts a fetus, are you taking away from the fetus something to which the fetus is entitled? Is it more like stealing money, or is it more like beating somebody at chess?
I guess then we're back to the argument in the first paper about whether or not you have the right to the things to keep you alive.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
then it's back to the violin argument, violinist.
yeah. So right. So if it turns out that the fetus has a right. This has to be said carefully. So it's not just in order for it to be a moral loss for the fetus would have to not just have a right to life, but we also have to show that if you have a right to life, you cannot abort the fetus. And that was really the contention. That was really what was that contention in that paper, in the first paper, right? Because Thompson is trying to show that, look, even if the fetus has a right to life, it might still be okay to abort the fetus, because having a right to life doesn't entitle you to, it doesn't entitle you to having everything that you need to stay alive, including the mother's body. Uh, so so then now the question is, does the fetus, hmm, does the fetus have a right to, how do I say this? Does the fetus own its future? Maybe that's the best way to put it. Yes, does the fetus own its future in the same way in which I own my money? Okay, what do the rest of you think? If I abort a fetus, or well, if you abort a fetus, are you taking away from the fetus something which it owns? Just like, just like if you rob somebody of money, you're taking away something which the person owns.
I would kind of have to say no.
Okay.
Only because I don't know. I mean, I can see the side of people saying, like you're entitled to life, like your life is yours kind of thing. But I almost, see it as something, it's almost an accident, almost like something I didn't choose to, like, whereas like money, I worked for the money. It's my money, my life. It's, I'm not ungrateful for my life, but it's just something I have almost. And so, I mean, I'm not sure how to relate that to the, abortion or anything, but just kind of based on your question about life, I just kind of see life as just something I have almost.
I might also say that you could say, does anybody really own their future? Like you can also say, like we're lucky to be alive today, like not everybody wakes up to see the next day. So, we have to make ourselves be able to, like keep ourselves healthy so that we can stay alive and have a future. And if fetuses aren't able to do that, then it goes back to the argument of it's kind of whether the parent places a value on that life to help the fetus do that.
Yeah.
But then, in a way, would then poor people have, or any other group of person have the right to life? Because, like, unless if we found another, you'd have to find another way of. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, if finding another way to tell why it's wrong to kill. But then we don't have a reason for why it's wrong to kill someone.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, if we so yeah, let me try to summarize. So if we follow Bracken's point, if you follow Bracken's view that it is not wrong to kill a fetus because a fetus doesn't really own its future. It just, it's not like, which kind of in a way it kind of makes sense, because it's not like a fetus asked to be born, right? It's just conceived. But if that is the case, then how are we different? I mean, we as grown people, we didn't ask to be born either, right? We just, we were just born, whether we like it or not. So if the fetus doesn't own its future, because it didn't ask to be born and therefore doesn't have a claim to its future, then we didn't ask to be born either. So that means that we also don't have a claim to our future. So if it's not wrong to abort a fetus because it doesn't own its future, because we are not robbing it of anything, then maybe it's also not wrong to kill us because it's also not robbing us of anything.
I think this would kind of go back to the point I made not yesterday, on Tuesday, about giving, just trying to take a life if that life has value, whether that value is given by yourself or by others. So it's wrong to, say, even, if the person is completely, a loner, has no friends or any, isn't given value by other people, but, is given value by itself, by himself or herself or whatever. So it's, it has value, but to like a baby or a fetus or anything, it can't really give value to itself because it hasn't quite developed that ability. So you give it value, so its parents or family or whatever will give it value, and therefore will have value. But if they are not given that value, then it is, I mean, if it doesn't have value at all, then it wouldn't be wrong to kill.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you be able to also say that about infants? Because do infants have the ability to give value to themselves?
Or
Yeah, they don't have the ability to give value to themselves, but they have some sort of value given by, if they weren't aborted, that means that they most likely have value given by their parents.
Temporarily, though, like, what if, like, that changed or something?
or
Well, then-
what about like suicidal people? Like, if a suicidal orphan, is it wrong to kill them?
Mm. Are you asking, is it wrong for them to kill themselves, or is it wrong for other people to kill them?
Other people, because if they don't value their lives and if they don't have anyone else that values their lives,
Mm.
then
Uh, this is starting to look like maybe if we follow all these lines of argument, if you follow this line of argument, it's starting to look like our value is not really depend on ourselves. It's not dependent on ourselves, but it's dependent on other people, and maybe dependent on what we contribute to society. So yeah, so you could try saying something like, look, it is wrong to kill me, but it's not it's wrong to kill me, but not wrong to abort a fetus, because a fetus, well, if nobody, if we don't, if a fetus doesn't have value and we have value, that means that we must have acquired value after we come into this world, right? um, and where does this value come from? It seems that it comes from our being in the world, our being involved in the world, and and doing things and contributing to other people's lives. So 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 that's why it's wrong to kill us, because it's wrong to kill us not because we have value that we give to ourselves, but because we have value that other people give us because of our contributions to other people. um how which makes me think, what do I contribute to other people? Uh yeah, and then maybe that means that people who are suicidal, I don't know, I mean, it depends on what kind of suicidal person, because not all suicidal people are created are equal. Some suicidal people still contribute to society and to others around them, and others don't. Right. Yeah. So
I don't know. I just have problems with the idea that you're you only have value if you're contributing to society, or maybe you're only valuable to society if you're contributing to society, but I still don't feel like you can just kill like, oh yeah, you're a freeloader. Okay, you can just instantly die.
Well, isn't that how some people also justify like the death penalty? They're negatively impacting society, so they take them out of society.
Yeah, although yeah, I mean, people have different justification for the death penalty, but I guess that is one of them. The idea is that these people are creating negative value for society. Um, some people also say that some people try to support the death penalty by talking about deterrence, right? They say, we need to put some people to death to set a kind of example, so that we can discourage other people from doing all these horrible things. So that's another way to justify the death penalty. Uh, Gosh, I mean, in a way, in a way, we already live in such a society where our value is determined by other people, right? I mean, we live in a capitalistic society in which, you know, your, I mean, let's face it, people, whether or not people are willing to think of you as a useful person. Very often when people are trying to decide whether they're a useful person, they look at what you do for a living. They look at, I mean, I know this is really crass, but they look at how much money you make. They look at your net worth, right? So we already live in a society in which we are measured by our contribution to the economic. Yeah, let me say this more carefully. We are measured by our by our economic output, economic worth, which in turn is supposed to be a measure of how much value we are contributing to society. So I'm not saying that this is right. I'm just saying that we already live in a society in which our value is determined by something other than ourselves.
And I don't think that just because Jeff Bezos makes way more money than a retired teacher, then that makes that retired teacher worth less than just Bezos, you know?
I don't think so either. Uh, because, by that same logic, Jeff Bezos is a much, much more valuable person than I am, than me. Um, Maybe he is, I don't know. But, yeah, that does seem kind of wrong.
That's kind of like it's like the might makes right mentality, just economically instead of physically.
Yeah. In this case, we are saying something like net worth makes right. So the more net worth you have, the more the more the more valuable you are as a person, perhaps. Yeah. Um, well, by the way, this is maybe this is kind of a good segue into next week's topic, because we are talking about Marx. Um, but by the way, I think this is the difference between capitalism and non-capitalism, because I don't know if you guys have ever wondered about this, but I've asked myself, what is the difference that is it what makes a society a capitalist society? Is it just because we use money? Is it just because we sell and buy things? uh I don't think that's right, because people have been selling and buying things for thousands of years, right? Ever since money came into existence. So when does capitalism, yeah, when does a society become capitalist? And I think the answer is, I read an article in the I think it's in the Atlantic. I read an article in the Atlantic some months ago, which said that the a society becomes capitalist when it starts to measure everything, by money, where when monetary worth becomes the default way of measuring the worth of anything. uh, and that basically describes the society that we live in, right? We you know If you are trying to I mean, even kids, I mean, even teenagers, right? If you mow the lawn for your neighbor, you basically try to justify you try to justify the value of your service by getting your neighbor to pay you, right? Or your parents might pay you for doing chores around the house, and that is, I mean, there's nothing evil about that. It's just your parents' well-intentioned way of telling you that your actions have meaning. I mean, yeah, it's just their very well-intentioned way of telling you that your actions have worth. They are so worth. They have worth, so they are trying to show it by paying you. But that actually shows that we live in a society in which everything, even nice things that we do for our parents, are things that ultimately have to be measured by money. And so and so we live in a capitalistic society because everything, including the small things that we do and ultimately the worth of a human life, is measured by money. um, I think some years ago, I mean, think another example is life insurance, right? If you buy life insurance, and you die, they will pay you out, right? Which basically means that they are measuring the worth of your life by, again, money. So I don't know. Congratulations, we live in a capitalistic society. Isn't that wonderful?
I've thought of this a lot recently, actually, because people are afraid that if Bernie Sanders were elected, we'd then become a socialistic country. But we already have so many freaking social programs. Our K through 12 education system is a social program. Medicaid and Medicare are social programs. Welfare is a social program. Food stamps, WIC. And then what? Then we have socialized medicine and a free college education, and then we become a socialism country. Like, it's stupid.
Is that really a bad thing? I don't know. I mean, if we are going to be measured by our monetary worth anyway, then that money might as well go somewhere that benefits more people, right? I mean, like universal college education. Carson, what do you think?
Sorry, I'm cooking. What did you say?
Oh, I say, is Bernie's idea such a bad thing? I mean, if we are already living in a society in which we are measured by, money, what Bernie is really saying is that we should invest more in people, by making sure that everybody has a college education, making sure that everybody has healthcare. Uh, so it's basically still capitalism. I mean, I know they call it, I know I know they accuse him of being a socialist, but it's basically still capitalism, but it's capitalism with more investment in human beings.
I totally agree. I voted for Elizabeth Warren, but she has a lot of the same ideas. Um, I support, right?
Yeah, yeah. Matthew.
Just something that just if money equals um value, then why is it that the like lower income countries actually report being happier and have less depression and anxiety and um like the I read this last week in the World Happiness Index report because I'm a nerd
Mm,
that um the most it countries that are war torn are the least happy, but right after that it's the most profit the top 10. Right after the war torn countries, it's the top 10 most wealthy countries are also the least happy countries. So I don't think that money equals worth, if but it's kind of hard to define worth without but maybe that's because I've just been raised in a way. Maybe like that's just our society.
yeah, it's really hard because um, it's almost like there is no. there is no turning back the wheels of capitalism. I imagine that, probably a couple of hundred years ago, somebody probably came up with what he thought was a bright idea, and he thought, well, if we can, if we can, aff- if you go to the market and somebody tells you that a loaf of bread is worth so much, and maybe another loaf of bread is worth even more, that's probably because the second loaf of bread is made better, right? It's grown, maybe it's like organic bread or something. So so that guy probably said, look, if you can measure the quality of things in the marketplace by money, why don't we also measure the quality of things in the world, including human beings, by money? And so that sounded like a really bright idea at that time. um, um, yeah, but then the problem is that, once you start going down that route, then everything has a dollar value. uh, and then basically the whole of society becomes like this gigantic factory. If you think of so then you start to think of the university as a people go to the college because they want to get a job after that, so they attach a value to college education. So everything has value because it ultimately only because it generates money down the road. So everybody and everything is like a big money. We are all money generating factories. Some of us are more efficient at generating money. Some of us are more efficient factories than others. uh, and I think I think perhaps Matthew's point is that there is something very dehumanizing about this, because well, if you maybe you're basically judging everybody by how well they perform at making money, at generating wealth. Um, um, and so the what that implies is that if you're not generating a lot of wealth, if you happen to do something that doesn't generate a lot of money, like teach philosophy, then you are useless. I don't. Yeah, and Matthew is has a point. That there are there it seems that people in so-called third world countries, many people in so-called third world countries are happier. They feel better about themselves even though they have less money. Um, oh gosh, I don't know why.
I just kind of had a quick thought, and that I I don't know. I was thinking about it when you guys were talking about Bernie. Um, a lot of these different things, like, if you read, like, we're going to read Marx and stuff. I've done a little bit of reading of that too. And, these things, they're great ideas. And, they're like, oh, this would be great. It would be phenomenal if society could come to this and do this. The only problem is, people end up being selfish. And so we just have to settle for capitalism almost, because a lot of people are like, oh, my money, I don't want to share it, kind of a thing, even though, oh, it's better for the people, it's better to, society will be better if we would do this, we could have a better future, whatever. But a lot of people, when it comes down, not everybody, but there's always going to be people that are selfish like that. And so then, it's great in theory, but, and that's like, communism in theory is, looks great and everything, but in practice it never turns out, most, because the one leader or whatever will just, down the line might become selfish at one point, or, with his whoever he chooses to become next, it just eventually will break down to someone being selfish and ruining it. And that's why we have to kind of settle for capitalism, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, it's almost like, maybe if this is right, then it sounds like capitalism itself is just a symptom. It's not really the main problem. Um, yeah, I mean, maybe capitalism is so bad because people use the system to to exploit and basically screw other people over. Uh, um, I was gonna say something else, but I'm trying to put this thought together. So maybe, yeah, maybe capitalism is bad because, not so much because people are measuring other people by their worth, but by their net worth, but because, no, here's something else. I wonder if capitalism is a symptom of a loss of imagination on the part of human beings. What do I mean by that? In the days before there was capitalism, right? You still use money, right? You buy stuff at the marketplace when you are in town or at the village square or whatever. But then you go home to be with your family, and when you're with your family, your family members your family looks out for you, and people. There's this kind of understanding within the family that that money isn't the most important thing. If you are sick, your parents, your family tries to take care of you until you get well. They don't really charge you for taking care of you. So there is this. So in you know the in that kind of society, money is just one part of life, right? Money is just one part of life, and everything else you do is everything else you do isn't really dependent on money, right? Your relationships, your relationship with your family and people who care for you, it doesn't really depend on money. But in our society, it's different. Though in a capitalistic society that we live in, almost everything, maybe everything, is dependent on money. Even your relationships at home with your parents is also measured by money, right? Because if you live with your parents, you probably pay them rent. If you do chores for your parents, they will probably pay you for to show that they appreciate what you're doing. Uh, so, and that leads to, I don't know, I feel that leads to a kind of loss of imagination because we lose the ability to imagine what makes people worthy as human beings, other than their ability to generate money. Um, so one question is, what is there a better way to measure human worth? Mm, I don't know.
Shouldn't it kind of go back to Kant and just saying that, humans at their base have worth? There's not really no one person better than, well, actually, I now that I think about it, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. It's not a final thought, but just humans at their rational nature has value.
And Kant actually does say that, he actually, I never really talked about it when I was talking about Kant, but he says that the difference between rational nature and everything else that's not rational is that everything else has a price, but rational nature doesn't have a price. Rational nature has dignity, and dignity is something that is priceless, that is beyond price. So Kant himself recognizes that there are some things that cannot be measured or should not be measured by money, by net worth. And I totally agree with him. I just don't know. It's just the problem is that I've lived in capitalism for so long that I don't know what a society in which people are measured by dignity rather than price would look like. I am a victim of capitalism. Perhaps you can say that. Is this depressing enough? No. Yes, maybe. Uh, Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can keep you any longer because it's already 12:23. I suppose I should let you go. Yes, let's go home. I mean, let's spend the weekend reading some Marx and getting even more depressed. And then we'll come back on Tuesday and talk some more. Okay, thank you so much. See you later.
Thank you.